From today onwards, for the next 6 weeks, we are going to talk about the art of public speaking, particularly with reference to Babasaheb Ambedkar's speeches and his various documents. I'm going to show you how Babasaheb Ambedkar used this power of speech to transform the world. And therefore, this is a very interesting topic that we are going to study in the course of coming 6 weeks. So I made a presentation to begin with. Let me share that with you. Wait, So what we are going to start today is about Babasaheb Ambedkar and the art of persuasion. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the theory and then also about practice as to how Babasaheb Ambedkar used inculcated the various elements of the rhetoric theory. So these sessions are going to be based on two things. One is theory, another one is practice. So why this is important? Because we know that Babasaheb Ambedkar had many dimensions. He was a leader, he was a thinker, he was a philosopher, he was somebody who has done a lot in various fields like economics, law, you name it, history. But Babasaheb Ambedkar as a public speaker, though we know a lot about how he used this public speaking to transform, we haven't studied him to that level to understand him as a public speaker and his views on public speaking and what he expected from his followers and the people in general in democracy as to how they should train in the idea of what is called the oration or oratory. So Babasaheb Ambedkar has said in 1948, January 14, he addressed a meeting of elocution prize distribution ceremony in Mumbai, and there the competition was held in Siddharth College. And he emphasized in that speech the art of speaking in public could be developed with great efforts. So, the meaning of this sentence is very clear that nobody is born with an ability to give the speeches. It takes a lot of time for a language to develop in the infant. And the art of public speaking, like all the arts in the world, needs great efforts. And anyone who is ready to put efforts can develop the art of public speaking. That is very clear from the statement of Babasaheb Ambedkar. And in the same speech, he talks about various popular speakers of his time, particularly talks about G.K. Gokhale, who was considered to be one of the great speakers of the time. And Baba Ambedkar says that in his first speech, in his maiden speech, he failed to make impact. He was not comfortable. Firoz Shah Mehta, another great guy, a great speaker, who used to practice in a room mirror, in a room filled with mirror, and he also paid special attention to his dress and appearance. And we are going to see how important it is to carry yourself when you make a public appearance, and that is one of the important aspects of having your impact on others. And in the same speech, Baba Ambedkar talks about great orator Churchill. He said that his speeches won the war for England in the World War II. That was how impactful his speeches were during the World War II. So, the great orator Churchill, he never delivered any speech without preparation. So he has to prepare every speech. And I'm going to talk more about Churchill in the coming sessions and about Lincoln, the two great orators who used the words to transform the world, to change the world, to change the minds of the people. And in somewhere else, Baba Ambedkar also emphasized the role of rhetoric. Now I'm going to talk about rhetoric in the classes because this class is all about rhetoric, and this subject is very important, and we all must train ourselves in rhetoric. And Baba Ambedkar emphasized very clearly using the same phraseology that the role of rhetoric and the art of public speaking in the law education is very important. And elsewhere he says that it's very important for our life, and we know that speech, talking to people, having a dialogue is the most important, you know, important thing in our lives, because that the speech separates us from the animal because we can communicate. So let's go further. And Babasaheb Ambedkar has talked about the importance of rhetoric, and in terms of for the democracy to survive. In fact, the democracy has come into being because of the public speaking. In the Greece, when the democracy started, in whatever shape it was there, it was based on the public speaking. So this is what Babasaheb Ambedkar says about public speaking or rhetoric. He says there is one other thing which you must also remember, and it is this: in an autocracy, in an authoritarian regime, in a fascism or Nazism, in a dictatorship, where the laws are made by the wishes of a dictator or by an absolute monarch, the art of public speaking or the art of speaking is unnecessary. No autocrat, no absolute monarch need to pay any attention to eloquence. So eloquence, rhetoric, oratory is the same words. Eloquence, because his will is law. But in parliament where laws are made, no doubt by the wishes of the people, the man who succeeds in winning our opposition is the man who possesses the art to persuade. So persuasion is a very key element. How we persuade other people, his opponent. You cannot win over a majority in this house by giving a black eye to your opponents. So you see, the argument by force is totally absent in Babasaheb Ambedkar's. Force means violence. In that context, is totally absent in Babasaheb Ambedkar's methodology. He never used the violence or a force, or he never used coercion to argue his point. And I'm going to show you in the second class when we are going to talk about Gandhi and Babasaheb Ambedkar discussion as to how they argued with each other. And therefore, you see, you cannot win for a majority in this house by giving a black eye to your opponent. A minority is not going to curb a majority by bringing gundas, nor is the majority going to record and obtain a victory by laying low the members of the minority. So the only thing that is necessary, that is essential for the democracy to come into alive, is the act of public speaking. And he says you will have to carry a proposition only by the art of speaking. That is how much importance Babasaheb Ambedkar places on what he calls the art of speaking. By persuading your opponent. Elsewhere he says you can try to win over other people by persuasion, by your logic. If both the fail, then only remedy that you have to persuade people is love. And I'm going to talk about love, sympathy in the public speaking. That's very important. So by winning him over is side by argument, either gentle or strong. See, the argumentation is very important, and whether it's gentle or strong, but always logically and instructively. So your speech should not always, should not just be logical, but as Babasaheb Ambedkar says, that your speech should be also instructive. It should educate people. It should bring some new information to the people. Therefore, supreme qualification for success in a parliamentary institution is the capacity to possess the house. Means your speech should be able to possess the house, and we are going to see how Babasaheb Ambedkar possessed the house in his very first speech in the Constituent Assembly. We are going to see that. It's a very interesting speech I selected today for our discussion. So Babasaheb Ambedkar says that public speaking is an art. As I said, that the art can be developed. We can all learn it if we are ready to make the great efforts. So Babasaheb Ambedkar says, therefore, you should go to Parliament fully prepared to make a serious contribution to a serious subject. And also, I want to add to that, you should learn very seriously the art of public speaking. So we all have to learn the art of public speaking. It is not very difficult art, though you need to put a lot of efforts. As Babasaheb Ambedkar says, it's not very difficult art, as I can tell you from my own experience. And you see, this is his oratory, because this is also speech. So you see, sometimes you have to, show the audience that, to buy some points. So here he's saying, I'm not a very great speaker. But we know by his speeches that he was, I would say, one of the greatest speakers. And there are some of his speeches available, and we can glean from those speeches as to how powerful a speaker Babasaheb Ambedkar was. So he says here, this is called in rhetoric concession. He's making the minds of the people ready, because his stature is very high. He has delivered this speech after drafting the Constitution of India. His stature was very high, and he has to prepare the minds of the audience. He says, I'm not a very great speaker, And I do not know if anybody who would care to write the history of people in India who have played their part in Indian politics would find any justification to put me among the best speakers in India. You see, this is also a tool to, inspire people. When he was delivering this speech, he was held in a very high regard. He is coming down to the level of audience, saying that, I am like this. But we know that, this is just a rhetorical tool to make people receptive to what he's going to say. He's encouraging people that you can be. If I can speak, you can speak. So he says, I do not covet that honor. At one time, I was so much overwhelmed by my shyness, which made me so nervous that I was on the point of giving up a job of a professor in the Sydenham College for nothing else except for the fear that boys will probably run me down. This is what Babasaheb Ambedkar is saying. This is confession. And confession is a great tool in public speaking to, bring your weakness out so that, people have a different psychology to receive you. Such a great man of Babasaheb's stature is talking about his weaknesses. And there is no problem if we, in the public speaking, sometimes we talk about weaknesses because that makes people to identify with you. Otherwise, they will put you on a pedestal, at, to the level where you are not reachable. So, and we know Baba Ambedkar has worked very hard to develop his art of public speaking. As we know, he has said somewhere that the first speech he has written 14 times before he delivered the speech. And then he was such an accomplished, eloquent speaker that in the course of his life, he could just deliver extempore. He didn't need the preparation. He has read so much. He had such a depth of knowledge that he could just write down a few points and he could deliver. Such was his prowess afterwards. But I can assure those of you who have similar fear to cast it away. You see, one of the greatest fears in the world, they say after death, is the fear of public speaking. We are so fearful if we have to approach the people, talk to people. And this fear is comparable to the fear, the fear of death. We are so shy, we are so scared to approach the people, to talk in front of the people. So what Baba Ambedkar says, he's seen how beautifully he's encouraging all of us. He's saying, but I can assure those of you who have similar fear to cast it away and to make an effort to acquire the command over language, which is not a very difficult task. You see, it's not a difficult task. That's what Baba Ambedkar says. He says you need efforts, but it's not difficult. It's hard, but it's not impossible. That's what Baba Ambedkar is encouraging here in this beautiful speech. So, Baba Ambedkar was a great, great, great speaker. He was a great, persuader. He was a great rhetoric. He was a great rhetor who could, make an impact on the minds of the people. I'm going to talk about some of the theories before we go to the practice of it. And I'm going to emphasize practice side with reference to Baba Ambedkar. There are some of the great speeches in the world. I'm going to look at them in the course of our sessions. But today I'm going to, just give you the test of how important it is and how it can be developed, the art of public speaking. So, you see, for Baba Ambedkar, the community is all about communication. So it's all about speaking. That's what separates us from the animals. The animals cannot make speech. They cannot talk like us. And they cannot form the kind of a community that we can form. So one of the definitions, of course, inspired by Babasaheb's guru in university, in the Columbia University, John Dewey, he has said communication is a key, is a community because through communication you hold something in common. And whoever holds something in common, that forms a community. So communication is very important. Communication is community. The more we communicate with each other, the more we exchange, we form a community. And that's why, the caste is anti-community because, it debars certain kind of a communication between the different groups of people. We know Baba Ambedkar gave hundreds of speeches in Marathi, in Hindi, in English, and some in Gujarati. These were the languages he has accomplished, and he could easily talk in these languages. He has argued with his papers. He has written papers. He has written articles. He has written books. He has written many editorials to argue his point, to persuade the people. He argued in the courts. He was a lawyer, so he had argued in criminal cases, in the civil cases, and so on and so forth. He argued in the constitutional process, not just in the Constituent Assembly, that he was the chairman of the drafting committee, but he has argued since 1919 when the constitution making process began in our country. He debated in the Constituent Assembly. We know that there are 4 big volumes where we can see every page, almost every page, you will see Babasaheb Ambedkar is arguing with the opponents, convincing his point. He's persuading the other people. So persuasion is at the heart of his mission. He did not ever advocate violence for changing the minds of the people. That's the beauty of Babasaheb Ambedkar. Through his words, through his power of articulation, through his oratory, through his persuasion skill, through his rhetorical, analysis skills, he could persuade millions of people. He could move people with his speeches. He mastered the technique of public speaking and was a persuasive speaker. There is no doubt about that. So this is something very important. This is what inspired me to talk about this particular topic, and run a course on this particular very important topic, because you see, Baba Ambedkar has planned to deliver lectures on oratory. You see, this is very important. And when he was going to do it, he was going to do it in the month of December 1956. We know that Baba Ambedkar left us on the 6th December 1956, but he had in his plans to deliver lectures on oratory in the month of December 1956 for the students of the training school for entrance to politics, which he founded in July 1956. And there was one batch, he was a director of the school, and there was one batch, was conducted under the aegis of the school, the training school for entrance to politics. So that ties with our aim of Ambedkar School of Governance. This word itself, this idea itself is taken from Babasaheb's idea of forming Ambedkar School of Economics and Politics. So we changed it to governance. So you see, this is what Babasaheb Ambedkar wanted to do. Such was, the importance of oratory. Such was his emphasis on the art of public speaking, that Babasaheb Ambedkar himself wanted to deliver a series of lectures. And I think if he could have done it, I am sure it would have helped us a lot. I'm sure there is some notes Baba Sahib might have taken, and we might find it someday. But I think this is the very important topic. This is so touching that Baba Sahib Ambedkar, even he had done so much at the end of his life. He was very keen to talk about, teach, deliver lectures on oratory, rhetoric, the art of public speaking. So the rhetoric, I'm going to talk about rhetoric in the Western thought, because that's how so much literature is available, so many books, so many research is going on. It's a very interesting field. There is so much now getting available. It was neglected at one point of time, but now it has come into forefront. I would have loved to do it from the Indian side, particularly from the Buddhist side, because the Buddhists have had this tremendous power of persuasion, in the throughout history. They never resorted to violence. They never resorted to lies. They never resorted to any kind of a falsity, and they had this logical approach to things. I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to talk, lay much emphasis on rhetoric in Western thought, because of the availability of a lot of resources there, and also the growing importance in the academia. Some of you might pick up these topics for research in the future, because it's a very, very interesting topic of persuasion, how to influence others. That's what the politicians have been doing. That's what the marketing guys are doing. And I'm going to talk a bit about one of the aspects of communication, particularly in reference to Milind Prashna, the questions of Milind. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I have a plan for that. So rhetoric in the Western thought or thinking goes back to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. And in the traditional liberal education in the West, there were three. This is called trivium: grammar, logic, and rhetoric. So they were all developed techniques or technologies to impart to the students that they should master the grammar, they should master logic, and they should master rhetoric. And rhetoric is even today taught in the Western universities, and it can be learned. As I said, it's not difficult, and its study is getting popularity these days, particularly in the Western universities. And so what are we going to look at today is what are the theoretical foundations and practical applications of rhetoric, speaking, and art of speaking. That's what we are going to look at. But there is a caveat that we have to build in, we have to bear in mind. The rhetoric word is much abused. People, we dismiss people saying that it's mere with rhetoric. His speech is very heavy on rhetoric. We say it's just rhetoric. It's highly rhetorical. But such is not the case. Rhetoric is an art. It's a fully developed art, and we can learn lot of skills by learning the theory of rhetoric. And you see, there is a very beautiful example given by one of the rhetoric, the scholar of rhetorics. Robert Bartlett. He said that, imagine a time when people used to, turn the wood, make different furniture. But before they developed a full-fledged theory or practice of making the furniture perfect, they had been practicing that. So, likewise, we have been practicing speaking since the dawn of the humanity, because we have to cooperate to hunt together, we have to do a lot of things together. So, there was a speech, but later this particular practice was developed into a kind of a technique so that, we can convince other people, we can bring together people, we can lead people to certain goals, and that's how the art of speaking developed. So we don't get wary of the word rhetoric. It's a very interesting word. It's very important. It can be used both ways. It can be used in a positive way and negative way. If you are a master of rhetoric, you can use it both ways. There are the demagogues, are the dictators in the world who knows how to turn the words, how to turn the phrases, how to mold the minds of the people only through their words. I'm going to show you how they do it in the upcoming classes. But that's not our purpose. Our purpose is very positive. We are going to use rhetoric for getting, persuade people to do good for the justice. So rhetoric is concerned necessarily with persuasion, but it is not. It does not have to teach. But in the Babasaheb scheme, the rhetoric can be used to teach. Instruct is very good. And there is another word which goes hand in hand with rhetoric, that the art of speaking is art of logic, that is called dialectic, having these two contrasting ideas and working through them to find out the truth. So I'm not going to go into that because dialectics is not very important for us in the rhetorics, because dialectics is all about logical reasoning and, going deep into the fact of the matter. And, that it's very difficult to put dialectics into a speech. So we are going to only concentrate on rhetoric. And what rhetoric has done to the Western world, it has acted as a tool to create leadership. Without speech, you cannot be a leader. So it has, there were all great people in the Western world. If Cicero or Augustine, or you name them, Plato, or Socrates was against rhetoric. But even then, he was called the rhetorical philosopher. Then, of course, the rhetoric has developed the conditions for democracy. In fact, democracy is all about communication, all about speaking, all about arguing, all about putting your point across. The rhetoric is at the heart of Bible and all the so-called religious books in the world, because they mold our minds towards certain direction. They use the word in such a way that have an impact on us, and they bring something out of us through mere the words. It said that the Quran is written by the great poets of Arabia, and they have such a powerful impact on you if you read the original Quran. Same with Bible, I think. Same with all the religious text. So, but with the Western rhetoric has an impact on Bible, and of course America's Constitution. All the founding fathers of America, they studied rhetoric. There is a great philosopher, the great speaker Daniel Webster, whose speeches sort of changed the house of the legislature. You see the great man like Thomas Jefferson and all, they all have had studied the rhetoric, and the rhetorics have an impact on the American Constitution. You can see it today. You can do the rhetorical analysis of the America's Constitution. So, such is the power of rhetoric. So let's go into some of the concepts of rhetoric before we do some of the practices of it. So what is the art of rhetoric? These are two words. Either you battle with the people or you debate. And interestingly, both these words are derived from the same root, the debate and the battle. So either we want to win the people by fist, or we want to win the people over by our words. So that's a choice. And we know that the violence is not a good option. It might be useful for some time, but it cannot be used for a long term. But what is important is the power of debate, and how these debates can take us further. There is in the group a movie link shared by our elder brother Chandruji, who is an IS officer. He has shared a link of the great movie, The Great Debater, and he's encouraging everybody to watch it. He studied from the Howard Kennedy School, and his recommendation for all of us is to watch that movie. So I encourage everybody to watch that movie, The Great Debater, as to how the blacks in US had used their debating skills to get their rights. So you see, This word debate is very important. And you see what we can do, what the rhetoric does. There are three kinds of rhetoric, only three modes of speaking. Okay, so it's not difficult. I'm going to explain it. There are only three modes of speaking. One is sometimes we manipulate passions like anger, envy, and pity to one's advantage and disadvantage. So this sort of a rhetoric is called the demonstrative rhetoric. Okay, because I'm going to give you the recording of the class, so you can take down the notes, or you just bear in mind and you can study them afterwards. So you see, one aspect of the rhetoric or the public speaking is manipulate passion, means emotions, including anger, envy, pity to one's advantage and disadvantage. This type of speech or rhetoric is called the demonstrative rhetoric. Then there is a forensic kind of a rhetoric, which is about, it is called the judicial rhetoric. I'm going to go into depth of this so that the conceptually will be clear. And then there is the third kind of a rhetoric, which is called the political rhetoric, which is also called the deliberative rhetoric. And we know that Babasaheb Ambedkar emphasized on the deliberative democracy, the government by discussion, government by exchange of ideas, government by the exchange of thought, which is called the deliberative democracy. So the third aspect we can call the political rhetoric is a deliberative rhetoric, which we used in the parliaments, in the big assemblies, in the public meetings. Sometimes we use the political rhetoric. So there are only two modes of speaking. So this should be very very good news for you, that it's not very complex. There are only three things that you can deal with. You can manipulate, play with the ideas, play with the passion, like anger, envy, pity to one's advantage and disadvantage. So these are, you bear in mind, three kinds of rhetoric: demonstrative, forensic, and legislative. You see, demonstrative, judicial, and political rhetoric, three things only. Okay, so three kinds of modes of persuasion. There are only three kinds of modes of persuasion. I'm going to talk about it. And keep these three words in your mind all the time: pathos, sorry, pathos, ethos, and logos. If you forget everything out of my class, even if you understand these three words, pathos, ethos, and logos, these three words, only these three words, if you know a lot about public speaking. So what is pathos? Pathos is those that speak to the passion of the audience. You see, so whenever we appeal to the passion of the audience, to the emotion of the audience, we use what is called the pathos. And we know this word from the pathology, because it relates to how we feel when we have certain physical issues. So you see, those that speak to the passion of the audience is called pathos. And it's a great mega tool of persuasion. If we can talk emotionally, if we can, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but we know that there are people who manipulate the moods of the people, passions of the people. They use the tool called pathos. Those that establish good character of the speaker among the audience, somebody through their personalities, they have an impact on the audience, and that is called ethos. I'm going to talk about it. Ethos is of course related to ethics. It is about the ecosystem around us. It's how we can blend with the world. Those that convince the audience through rhetorical logic, some of the people, they use the logical language to talk to the people. And this is what is very important, which is called a logos. Let me just unshare it, because somebody has scribbled down.
Yeah, can you remove it?
I don't know why people are doing this. It's
Like, can you limit the permission to scribble?
No, I don't know how to do it, but now let's go. So these three things you bear in your mind: pathos, ethos, and logos. Very important. Pathos, ethos, and logos. You commit these three words in your mind. That those that speak to the passion of the audience, which is we appeal to the passion, emotions of the people through envy, pride, jealousy, tribal thinking. And those that establish good character of the speaker. And sometimes I'm going to show you how you establish a good character among the audience, which is called the ethos. And when you convince through different logical tools, it's called logos. And logos matters. I think It's said in the Bible, the word begins with the logos. So what is logos? Logos matter because human beings are social and rational animals. We talk, we use the words, we reason with other people. So we are basically social and rational animals. We communicate with language and reasons, which is speech. And logos combine social, rational, linguistic, and rational aspect of our essential existence. So you see, the art of persuasion is at the center of our existence, and that's how we have to understand the three kinds of or three modes of persuasion prestige. So bearing this mind, these three technical words, I'm going to talk about them in a great details in the coming classes. Pathos, ethos, logos, emotions, character, and logic. Bear this in mind. So this particular matrix is very important, and I'm going to take some time to go through this matrix. You see, there are the three types of speeches which I talked about, like deliberative speech, which we make in order to, in the parliament or in the houses, we use the deliberative speech. In the court of law, because we are examining something, we are trying to find out who has done wrong. It is that speech is called the judicial or forensic speech. We are trying to know who is guilty. We are trying to put the blame on somebody. And in the ethos or a character type of a speech, it is called epidectic speech or demonstrative speech. Bear in mind these three speeches, three types of the speeches. You bear in mind logos, arguments, pathos, passion, and character ethos. Now, the deliberative speech is always about future. So there are only three tenses. Understand this. The deliberative speech is about future because future is all about choices. So you see, in the assembly, we do not talk much about past. In the deliberative speech, we talk about the choice is about options. Like if there is a discussion on whether to build a road in a city or not, it's a part of a deliberative speech. In the deliberative speech, you talk about the choices. So it's about future, what we are going to do in the future. That's the deliberative speech. The judicial or juridical speech or a forensic speech is always about past. Who has done wrong? What is gone wrong? The justice is always about past, right? And the demonstrative speech is about present. Divide the people based on values and all. So the arena where the deliberative speech is made is assemblies and parliaments. The judicial or forensic speech is made in the courts, and demonstrative speech is made, in the funeral oration or in a flowery speech when there are the onlookers. The purpose of the deliberative speech is to encourage people or to dissuade people from doing something. The aim of the judicial or forensic speech is to accuse or defend somebody. The encourage people or discourage people. That is the aim of the deliberative speech. The aim of the the judicial forensic speech is to accuse or defend somebody. And the demonstrative speech is about praising or blame. Either you blame somebody or you praise somebody. So the outcomes is sometimes, the choices can be advantageous, disadvantageous. The justice can be done or undone. There, in the demonstrative speech, it can be noble or base. The outcome of the outcome of the deliberative speech pay off for the people, for yourself. The outcome of the forensic speech is punishment, and the outcome of the speech based on ethos is you either bond the people together or you separate the people together. So you see a lot of politicians do this. Either they make a speech in such a way that they bond the people together or separate the people together. This is a very important chart which I call the matrix of rhetoric technique, and this gives us in a summary what is the rhetoric is all about. And if we bear this chart in your mind, then it will clarify you a lot of things as we go on in our sessions. So there are these three elements of speech that we have to bear in mind: the speaker, of course, and the subject matter, which is very important, and the audience and listener. So you see, the listener is very important. Without understanding the listener, we cannot give a speech. So the goal of the speech is relative to audience and listener, because we are going to persuade who is going to listen. And the argument is all over. It's in the families, it's among the friends, it's among the countries. The arguments are everywhere. We are all surrounded by arguments. We are arguing one way or another all the time. So the goal of the speech is related to audience. We have to know the audience. We have to know the listener, and listener can be a judge if you are pleading in the court of law, or a jury who judges about the past events. Listener can be an assembly who judges about the future events, like in the parliament or the legislative assemblies, or in the general assembly where we are talking about the future or the choices that we have. And the listener can be an outlooker who judges speaker's capacity in the demonstrative cases. So this is Cicero's three parts of rhetoric. Don't have to commit to the memory because I'm going to talk about it later on. So power of the speaker comes through his ideas and the words. So we need a lot of ideas. We have, if we want to become a great orator, we should have so much of exposure to different disciplines. We should have a beautiful set of words, and the speech itself consists of following elements. We introduce, we begin the speech with the introduction, we narrate the facts, we produce the belief in the minds of the people who are listening to you, and in the end we have conclusion, or the what is called the peroration. So that's a very important part as to how you conclude your speech. So I'm going to show you how Babasaheb Ambedkar does it in the speech that we are going to study today. And the subject can be general or particular. So in the case of Babasaheb Ambedkar speech that we are going to study together, the subject is the future of India. And that's a very important subject of the time. So basic framework for persuasive speech is this. You should know the goal. What is your goal when you make the speech? Whether you want to change the mood of the listener, or whether you want to change the mind of the listener, or you want them to do something for you. So basically only three goals that any speech can have. Either you change the mood, they might be gloomy, they might be sad. So through your speech, you try to uplift them, you try to inspire them. Like if you look at the speeches of Babasaheb Ambedkar, his speeches are very encouraging, very inspiring. You imagine a community which is oppressed so much for so many years. And here is an orator who uplifts their minds, who gladdens their minds, who inspires their mind. In a way, he changes the moods of the people. Of course, he has a transforming effect on the people. He changes the mind, and of course, he makes them act towards their liberation. So you see, in any speech, have the three purposes. Either you change the mood or mind or willingness to act. You make them act. Then, as I said, that the speech is always about three tenses. There is nothing beyond the three times: past, present, and future. The past is about blame. The present is about uh, bond or separation, and the future is always about choices. So I'm going to talk to you about all these things. So I talked about ethos, the argument by character. So character is not just being good. Character is about blending with the audience, so that they feel that you belong to them, that then only they can be receptive to you. If the audience knows that you are a hostile speaker, they are never going to be receptive to you. So you begin the speech with ethos, so that you make the audience listen to you. And then, argument by character, ethos, argument by logic, logos, and argument by emotions, pathos. And the fourth, the dimension of the speech that is very important is kairos. You cannot speak, every time. Or, there has to be an opportunity and the occasion to speak. If you speak something which is not needed at a time, that is a useless persuasion. You see, catching the pulse of the time is very important. And we see how Babasaheb Ambedkar caught the pulse of the time of this. I know when he made that very beautiful speech. So you see, bear in this mind, how the goal, whether you want to change the mood of the people or the mind of the person, or you make them act in a certain way, you have to control whether to blame somebody, or bring them together, or give them the choices. Only three things. And you can argue by character, ethos, you can argue by logic, logos, and you can argue by pathos. And the timing is very important. If you speak something which is not needed at the time, it's useless. So actually, I don't want to go much into this because this is a vast topic in itself. But the questions of Milinda is a kind of a study into how you can talk, how you can debate between the great king Milinda and Nagasena. I'm not going to go into that. Maybe one day I'm going to run a full course on Milind Prashna. So I don't want to go into that. But keep these points in your mind, that do not make any dialogue, discussion, or debate a personal issue. If you make it a personal issue, then you put a lot of emotions to that. So you should be able to keep yourself aloof from that. It's difficult because we are emotional beings, but as much possible, don't let's not make it a personal issue, because communication to its very root and essence can never be personal. It is always interpersonal process, because through the communication we are always talking about other person. Do not let the discussion take place based on the position of power or hierarchy. So if you see that we are arguing with certain power which are not going to listen to us, the discussion is useless, or hierarchy. But it should always take place based on common quest of truth and mutual respect. That's what the questions of Millen teach us. Argument and counter argument without having a direction or wisdom can just become a wordplay. So we should definitely have a goal in mind as to what we are going to do through our speech. And it's always important to create comfortable situation for both the parties before any discussion takes place. These are the takeaway from the Milling Prashna. There is a lot in Milling Prashna. I don't want to go into that. So let's study the speech of today, because before we venture into reading the speech, and I hope some of you will volunteer to read the speech, and I'm going to tell you how you can read the speech. So this speech of 17 December 1946 is very important. So as we know the history, and maybe some of you might be knowing that Babasaheb Ambedkar was allowed not to participate in the Constituent Assembly, because in the 1946 election, our parties made a complete defeat, and it was very difficult for Babasaheb Ambedkar to become the member of the Constituent Assembly. So Jogennath Mandal got him elected from Khulna, and only the elected members of the Legislative Assembly could elect the members to the Constituent Assembly. And we know that there is a great story how Jogennath Mandal got Babasaheb Ambedkar elected into Constituent Assembly, and he was the only person, a member of his own right in the Constituent Assembly. Okay, the whole Constituent Assembly was filled with the members of Congress and the Muslim League. But the first meeting of the Constituent Assembly was first session of the Constituent Assembly was boycotted by the Muslim League. So keep this fact in mind. Okay. So this is the first session of the Constituent Assembly, where the assembly was held to constitute the write the Constitution of India. Babasaheb Ambedkar was, of course, opposed by Congress, and he was not allowed to, you know, come in, because he was talking about the rights of the scheduled caste, and he was talking forcibly, and Jogennath Mandal got him elected. So that's the background. So this is the context of the speech. Now you imagine that it's a hostile assembly. The Constituent Assembly is hostile assembly because Babasaheb Ambedkar is I think the only member of his own. He belonged to the uh, All India Scheduled Caste Federation, and one from Bengal. So he was a member from Bengal. So you see, this is the hostile assembly. We have to understand the nature and psychology of the audience. They are all elected members. The elected members elected them. And the emotions of the assembly that time we have to understand, because that was the time when Muslim League, boycotted the Constituent Assembly. They said that we don't belong here. We want a separate nation. So the mood of the assembly was like that there should be a civil war between the Hindus and the Muslims. So that was the mood of the assembly. That was the emotion of the assembly. So let's look at what Babasaheb Ambedkar, what was Babasaheb Ambedkar's aim of that time. And we are going to see the aim getting clear as we go through the speech. Now, the question is whether the speech was prepared or extempore. So as we know that Babasaheb Ambedkar has a practice of writing down on the small cards, and he used to take down the notes. And he was expecting that his turn will come the next day. So I think in his mind, he had some ideas as to how he was going to present, how he was going to articulate his views, but it was not a prepared speech. It's very interesting that this great speech, one of the greatest speech in the history of India, was not prepared. It was extempore. There were notes, and you see and you in the speech you will see the unfailing memory of Babasaheb Ambedkar, because as a speaker you have to train your mind in order to memorize, and there are techniques to memorize so that you can go on speaking without looking at the written material, and that is what Babasaheb Ambedkar has done. He's speaking from his memory. He's citing quotations out of his memory. That's you can imagine the prowess. You can imagine the way he has trained his memory. So you see, his speech was extempore, and Babasaheb Ambedkar has, of course, might have organized the material in his mind, but there is no written speech like we can see the written evidences of the Gettysburg Address of Lincoln. There are many drafts of the speech, but in this case we don't have any draft. So he has certainly taken down some notes, as was his habit. So that is the background. Now imagine the assembly, hostile assembly of 300 odd people who are against you, and you are the only member of your own rights. That's how Babasaheb Ambedkar is going to speak. So before, I'm not going to, we are going to analyze the speech, but we are going to look at the elements in the speech like ethos, character, as to how his character persuaded the people, what he talked that persuaded the people, how he maintained the decorum, how, he made the audience receptive and attentive through constructive criticism. He criticized the very leader of Congress, but his criticism was very constructive. And that, you know, got the attention that he wanted. He gave concessions. He said he didn't just brag about himself. Though he was a great constitutionalist, he didn't brag about himself. He gave the concessions to the opponents. Very important that you give concessions to the opponents. And he establishes his credential as the student of history, and he also accepts the agreements of the previous speaker. The great speech that we are going to look at, and I need some help here. I need some of you to read some part of it. So,
So should I start, Mangesh
wait,
bhai?
wait, Mahendraji, wait. Um, you have to, besides Mahendraji, who else will be are there willing to volunteer?
I can also help.
Okay, Pritam. Anybody else?
I can also, sir.
Okay. So you see, I need one slide, one volunteer. Okay. So I'm going to begin it, and then I'm going to hand it over to you. Okay. So wise. Then Mahendra sir will speak one slide. So you all have, rotation wise. So those who are ready. Any women? Any women volunteers for reading? Okay, we'll see as we go. Okay. So you see, I structured in this way because whenever you write the speech, this is the practice of Churchill that he was making it into small this thing so that every line has only 3 or 4 words. Okay. So, and when they read it, they just don't read it like this. They looked at the words and they looked at the audience and they speak. That is how Churchill used to deliver his speeches. Very simple but very interesting method to, deliver the speech. So I'm not a great eloquent speaker, so I'm just going to read the way I can. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm indeed very grateful to you for having called me to speak on the resolution. I must confess that your invitation has come to me as a surprise. I thought that as there were some 20 or 22 people ahead of me, my turn, if it did come at all, would come tomorrow. I would have preferred that as today I have come without any preparation whatsoever. I would have liked to prepare myself as I had intended to make a full statement on an occasion of this. Besides, you have fixed a time limit of 10 minutes. Placed under these limitations, I don't know how I could do justice to the resolution before us. I shall, however, do my best to condense in as few words as possible what I think about the matter. So let's take a pause here. You see, in the beginning, as Babasaheb Ambedkar rose to the occasion, he has this decorum. He's addressing the chairman, and he's saying that he's very grateful, and he's explaining the circumstances in which he is making the speech. That he's not prepared because he thought that his turn will come the next day. It has come today, and therefore, he was not prepared. But because he also proposes that he was going to make a full statement, isn't it? But now because he has got the limitation of before he, of the time of 10 minutes, and also he's invited to speak before, he will do whatever best he can do. So you see, he says, I shall, however, do my best to condense in as few words as possible what I think about the matter. So what is the matter now? Let's look at the matter. So who wants to go now?
Should I start?
Yes, Mahendraji.
Next page. Huh? Next page or
This is the next page.
okay. Mr. Chairman, the resolution in the light of the discussion that has gone on since yesterday obviously divides itself into two parts. One part which is controversial and another part which is not non-controversial. The part which is non-controversial is the part which comprises paragraphs 5 to 7 of this resolution. These paragraphs set out the objectives of the future constitution of this country. I must confess that coming as the resolution does from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who is reputed to be a socialist. This resolution, although non-controversial, is, to my mind, very disappointing. I should have expected him to go much further than he has done in that part of the resolution. As a student of history, I should have preferred this part of the resolution not being embodied in it at all. When one reads that part of the resolution, it reminds one of the Declaration of the Rights of Man, which was pronounced by the French Constituent Assembly.
Very good. So you see, thank you so much, Mahendraji. You read very well. This is you see, now we can see how he comes to the subject matter. You see, in the first page, he talks about the subject matter and he talks about the matter itself, and it's about the Nehru's objective resolution. Nehru put the objective resolutions, which are available online. You can check. And there was a debate going on in that resolution. And Babasaheb Ambedkar is now coming to the heart of the issue. He is talking about the controversial part and the non-controversial part, and he talks about the paragraphs in the resolution. And then he talks about Nehru, and he says that he's a reputed socialist. He's giving some concession to him, and he's saying that it's non-controversial, but he says that he is disappointed. So this is, you see, the language in play. And he says that, he would have expected this from him. And then he uses ethos or his character or his standing as a student of history. So what he expects as a student of history, I should have preferred this part of the resolution not being embodied in it at all. He's saying that it should be abrogated completely from the Nehru resolution. When one reads that part of the resolution, it reminds one of the Declaration of the Rights of Man, which was pronounced by the French Constituent Assembly. So you see, this is how you talk. This is how you establish your point. This is how you make the audience attentive. He's going at the heart. He's criticizing the very leader of the house, because that was the Congress Assembly. The majority of the members, all the people in the assembly were Congress members. So that's how he got the attention of the audience and their reception. So let's read next. Who will go on?
I can.
Okay, Pritam.
I think I am right in suggesting that after the lapse of practically 450 years, the Declaration of Rights of the Man and the principle which are embodied in it has become part and a parcel of our mental makeup. I say they have become not only the part and a parcel of the mental makeup of modern India in every civilized part of the world, but also in our own country, which is so orthodox, so archaic in its thought and its social structure. Hardly anyone can be found to deny its validity. To repeat it now as resolution does is, to say the least, pure pedantry.
See, now this is a very interesting things. Babasaheb Ambedkar is talking about information. He's instructing the assembly. How he's instructing. He's saying that, this Declaration of the Rights of the Man, they are 450 years old and they are already embodied in our mental makeup. We all talk about them, and they have not just become the part of the part and parcel of the mental makeup of the modern man in the every civilized part of the world. But in our country, they have been talked about the rights of the man and the declaration of that. So you see, this is how he logically analyzes the things. He instruct the assembly. He's saying, while instructing, he's saying that to repeat it as does the resolution, he says is the pure pedantry. It is so ceremonial a lecture. It's such a ceremonial resolution that Babasaheb Ambedkar says, and he's criticizing Nehru here. So next we go.
So I'll go ahead.
Okay, Prashant.
These principles have become the silent, immaculate premise of our outlook. It is therefore unnecessary to proclaim as forming a part of our creed. The resolution suffers from certain other lacuna. I find that this part of the resolution, although it enunciates certain rights, does not speak of remedies. All of us are aware of the fact that rights are nothing unless remedies are provided, whereby people can seek to obtain redress where rights are invaded. I find a complete absence of remedies. Even the usual formula that no man's life, liberty, and property shall be taken without the due process of law finds no plan in the resolution.
You see, now this is very interesting because he talks about the how what he opposes, and then in this paragraph he's talking about the how the problem can be solved. He says the problem is not about rights because the rights are there, established in the established documents in the various constitution of the world. But what is lacking is the remedies. And when the future constitution of India came into being, there is a right of constitutional remedy, Article 32. So he says that there is no talk about what is called the remedies. And if there you talk about the rights without remedies, the rights are useless. So you see, this is what very interesting. And you see, because this is an extempore, and the phrase "no man's life, liberty, and property shall be taken without the due process of law." Very interesting. So you see, this his studies has enabled him to know a lot of things by rote. He has just look at his memory and quote from there, right? So even the please keep your mic shut, please. I have already instructed you. What is this? Prem Kumar, will you please close your mic? It's very this thing.
Sir, muted from your side.
No, but please, keep your mics on mute. So this is what is very important, that we have this we some of the great orators, they maintain the dossier of files, the files about various quotations, the file about the quotations. In our case, we should definitely have the quotations from Babasaheb Ambedkar, so that we can use them as and when we need them in our speeches. So you see, there is this very interesting idea that the way Babasaheb Ambedkar has trained his memory. When in this speech we can see that. So next we go. Who wants to go ahead?
I would like to read.
Okay, Siddhi, please go on.
These fundamental rights set out are made subject to law and morality. Obviously, what is law, what is morality, will be determined by the executive of the day. And when the executive may take one view, another executive may take another view. And we do not know what exactly would be the position with regard to fundamental rights, if this matter is left to the executive of the day. Sir, there are here certain provisions which speak of justice, economical, social, and political. If this resolution has a reality behind it, and a sincerity of which I have not the least doubt, coming as it does from the mover of the resolution, I should have expected some provision whereby it would have been possible for the state to make economical, social, and political justice a reality. And I should have, from that point of view, expected the resolution to state, in most explicit terms, that in order that there may be social and economic justice in the country, that there would be nationalism of industry and nationalism of land. I do not understand how it could be possible for any future government which believes in doing justice socially, economically, and politically, unless its economy is a socialist economy. Therefore, personally, although I have no objection to the enunciation of these propositions, the resolution is, to my mind, somewhat disappointing. I am, however, prepared to leave this subject where it is, with the observations I have made.
Beautiful reading, Siddhi. So you see, this is what he's talking about fundamental rights. He's saying that, these are subject to law and morality. And he says that they are at the whims and fancies of the executive. And he goes on, talking of very logically here. Now he makes the people to listen him, and now he is talking very logically as to what he meant by remedies, what he meant by justice, and you see here at one instant he calls Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Here he says the mover of the resolution. You see, he's using a very different phrase to refer to the same thing. And that's very important, that you make your speech very interesting by using the different phraseology, the way Babasaheb Ambedkar is doing is, I think, very interesting. And then he is talking about his expectation, He's talking about, the nationalization of industry, nationalization of land. This is before the constitution came into being. Huh? He's talking about the future government. If it believes in justice, social, economic, and political justice, it has to talk about the socialist economy. So in a way, he's playing the game on the same territory of, Nehru. He has said for before that he is a socialist, but he's not talking about any elements of socialism in his resolution. This is a very, very penetrating. If you look at the context, if you look at the Keros, the timing, Babasaheb Ambedkar is actually, making Nehru think that, you boast yourself of a socialist, you go to the socialist meetings throughout the world, and here you're talking about the future constitution of India, and you're not talking about your core ideas. So very interesting way of persuasion. So beautiful thing. Let's go next. Who is going to read?
I can go ahead.
Anyone else besides Pritam?
I
Okay,
can also, sir.
go Pritam.
Hello. Now I come to the first part of the resolution, which includes first four paragraphs. As I said from the debate that has gone in the House, this has become a matter of controversy. The controversy seems to be centered on the use of that word republic. It is centered on the sentence occurring in the paragraph 4, the sovereignty is derived from the people. Thereby, it arises from the point made by my friend Dr. Jaikar yesterday that in the absence of the Muslim League, it would not be proper for this assembly to proceed to deal with this resolution. Now, sir, I have got not the slightest doubt in my mind as to the future evolution and the ultimate shape of the social, political, and economic structure of this great country. I know today we are divided politically, socially, economically. We are a group of warring camps, and I may go even to the extent of confessing that I am probably one of the leaders of such a camp. But, sir, with this, I am quite convinced that, given time and circumstances, nothing in the world will prevent this country from becoming one. With all our caste and creeds, I have not the slightest hesitation that we shall, in some form, to be a united people.
Now, this is, I would say, the heart of the speech. These few words, this paragraph, I would say, change the destiny of this country. See, the way Babasaheb Ambedkar is now, using what we can say, both ethos and pathos. He's appealing to the patriotic feelings of the people. He's talking about the country. He's talking about the republic. And he's talking about M.R. Jaikar's that resolution that in the absence of Muslim League, the assembly cannot deal with the resolution because the Muslims have boycotted the Constituent Assembly. And Babasaheb Ambedkar now he's talking about Mr. Jaikar's point about republic that the sovereignty is derived from the people and half of the Muslims are absent. So from where does the sovereignty is derived? That's the question. And then Babasaheb Ambedkar takes a complete different turn in talking about making his point. And I think that's the heart of it. You see the words that he has used. He says, you see, he's giving concession to the people. He's even talking about him as one of the members of the warring camp. That's a great device that Babasaheb Ambedkar has used. He says, now, sir, I have got not the slightest doubt in my mind as to the future evolution and the ultimate shape of. Why do people do this? See, I have not got the slightest doubt in my mind as to the future evolution and ultimate shape of the social, political, and economic structure of this great country. I know today we are divided politically, socially, and economically. See the point he is making. And he says that even he says that, I am the part of one of the groups of the warring camp. And he said that I may go even to the extent of confessing that I am probably one of the leaders of such a camp. But, sir, with all this, I am quite convinced that given time and circumstances, nothing in the world will prevent this country from becoming one. So he's talking about the unity, he's talking about patriotism, he's talking about the republic, he's talking about the country. And you see the way people cheered him up. Applause, cheers So, he has in this paragraph won the hearts of the people. The hostile assembly, the 99% of the members of the assembly are hostile to him. In this single paragraph, he won over them all. He made them so receptive. Now, see the magic happening in the assembly, transforming the fate of a country. See this. Next.
I will read, sir.
Okay, wait. Okay, read.
I have no hesitation in saying that notwithstanding the agitation of the Muslim League for the partition of India, someday enough light would dawn upon the Muslims themselves, and they too will begin to think that a united India is better even from them.
Now you see, this is very, very, very critical. You see, the Muslims are boycotted, and Babasaheb Ambedkar is the philosopher of Pakistan. He has written the book Thoughts on Pakistan, which was read by Jinnah, Nehru, and all the people in the negotiation. That was the power of his intellect. But he, the one who is the philosopher of, thinking about how this problem can be resolved, he is saying that there is still a possibility of the unity between the Muslims and the Hindus. He's saying that even if the Muslim League is pitching for the partition today, maybe one day they will come to realize that a united India is better even for them. And you see what is happening in the assembly? You see, he's uniting the people, he's not dividing the people. And loud cheers and applause. So, he's like at the, it's like the, crescendo in the music, it's going at the top. His speech is going at the top. The way he is taking it to the height, and there he is using his power of oration, the power of elocution to convince the people. Now, see the next. You can go on reading it, Amit. No, wait. Now I want to do something here because now this is what we have. Wait, because now we will listen to the master directly. Okay. Now we will listen to the master directly.
So far, as the ultimate goal is concerned, I think none of us need have any argument. None of us need have any doubt.
Can you hear this?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay,
We
okay.
can, but the sound is not very clear, sir.
So you can listen it afterwards because there are the subtitles also.
But my fear, which I must express clearly, is this. Our difficulty, as I said, is not about the ultimate future. Our difficulty is how to make the heterogeneous mess that we have today take a decision in common and march in a cooperative way on that road which is bound to lead us to unity.
Now you see, this is what Babasaheb Ambedkar is doing. He is bringing the house, he's making the house united. He's talking about the fate of the country. He's talking about what we can do together. This is, you see, the oratory at its best. As I say, that this is one of the speeches of Babasaheb Ambedkar that has built the foundation of democracy in this country, that has made this country what it is in terms of its constitution. And you see, when you listen to the speech, you listen to this articulation, the way he speaks, the way he emphasizes certain words, the way he is using the voice. So this is very important. Listen carefully, okay?
Our difficulty is not with regard to the ultimate. Our difficulty is with regard to the beginning. Mr. Chairman, therefore, I should have thought that in order to make a start, in order to induce every party, every section in this country, it would be the act of greatest statesmanship for the majority party, even to make a concession to the prejudices of people who are not prepared to march together.
Now, see, dear Babasaheb Ambedkar is appealing to the Congress party. He is talking about them. that, we should make the concession to the people who have not joined the Constituent Assembly. Okay, so, this is a very clever speech. This is a very intelligent speech. It's a very well-laid speech, though it is Babasaheb Ambedkar has not, drafted this speech. It's an extempore speech. He's speaking from the notes. He's not prepared it. But you see his presence of mind. You see how he catches the pulse of the assembly. That's the beauty of Babasaheb Ambedkar.
And it is further that I propose to make this appeal. Let us leave aside slogan.
Now there is this very beautiful part. He goes on. He goes on elaborating. Bringing the people together, the unity of the house. He's making all people to work towards a common goal of a country. It's the beauty of this speech. Now see the way he articulates the words. You see now.
Let us leave aside words which frighten people.
So he is removing the fear from the minds of the people. Because there is nothing to fear. We should use our language in such a way that people should not fear us.
Let us even make concession to the prejudices of our opponent.
So you see, making the concession to the opponents is very important. It's the heart of the rhetorical practice. You cannot just go on banging your own, drum. We have to listen to the people. We have to even give them some concession to their prejudices.
Bring them in so that they may willingly join with us on marching upon that road, which, as I said, if we walk long enough, must necessarily lead us to unity. And if I therefore, from this place, support Dr. Jakar's amendment, it is because I want all of us to realize that whether we are right or wrong, whether the position that we take is consonance with our legal rights, whether that accords with the statement of May 16th or December 16th, leave all that aside. This is too big a question to be reduced to the position of mere legality.
Now you see, Babasaheb Ambedkar is making an interesting statement. He is now taking the attention of the people from the resolution. He's talking about something else. He's talking about much bigger a picture. He's talking about the country. He's talking beyond law. He's talking beyond, the resolution. He's actually taking the audience altogether to the very different intellectual plane of, understanding.
It is not a legal question. I say leave aside all these considerations and make some attempt whereby those who are not prepared to come will come. Let us make it possible for them to come. That is my appeal. In the course of the debate that took place, there were two questions which were raised, which struck me so well that I took the trouble of taking them down on a note paper.
So here Babasaheb Ambedkar is saying that how he is, has prepared the material for this. He has, this should be our habit to take down the notes, right? Whatever important points there are. So he is even explaining the process by which how he is articulating.
The question was, it was asked, I think, by my friend, the Prime Minister of Bihar, who spoke yesterday in this assembly. He said, how can this resolution prevent the League from coming into the Constituent Assembly? Today, my friend Dr. Shyam Prasad Mukherjee asked another question. Is this resolution inconsistent with the cabinet mission's proposal? Now, sir, I think they were very important questions. And they I think, ought to be answered. They're answered categorically.
See the use of the word, he said it would have been enough if he had said they ought to be answered. but then he's re-emphasizing. Answered categorically. You see, these are all the very important tools in speech making. You know, how you articulate something. He says it has to be answered, but it has to be answered categorically. Now, you see, his voice is addressing the hall. He is talking in an assembly. So he has to talk in a certain way. Because when you're talking in a big hall, you have to talk in a certain way. Even you're talking in a small room, you have to talk in a certain way. In a classroom, you have to talk in a certain way. So this is the demonstration as to how you can talk in a big hall. So you keep on noticing the minute details.
I do maintain that this resolution, whether it is intended to bring about the result or not, whether it is the result of cold calculation, or whether it is a mere matter of accident, is bound to have the result of keeping the Muslim League out. And I'll substantiate what I said.
I substantiate
Your attention.
I substantiate what I said. So you see, whatever he says, it's based on evidence. He's not creating anything out of, the magical, imaginative world. He's talking about substantially, talking about facts. He's talking logically.
To paragraph 3 in the resolution, which I think is very significant and very important. Paragraph 3 envisages the future constitution of India. I do not know what is the intention of the mover of the resolution, but I take it that it is a sort of, after this resolution is passed, it will act as a sort of a directive to the Constituent Assembly to frame the Constitution in terms of paragraph 3 of the resolution. What does paragraph 3 speak of? Paragraph 3 says that in this country, there shall be two different sets of polity. One at the bottom, the autonomous provinces or the states, or such other areas as care to join a united India.
Now, this is about, the India at the time, which was divided into 563 princely states and 11 British provinces. So Babasaheb is making a technical point, which was very important for the unity of India. And he talks about always the unity of India, that, he says somewhere that he is the Indian first and the Indian last. This speech shows his great love for this country, for the unity of this country.
These autonomous units will have full powers. They will have also residuary powers. At the top and over the provincial units, there will be a union government having certain subjects for legislation, for execution, and for administration. So as I read this part of the resolution, I do not find any reference to the idea of grouping an intermediary structure between the union on the one hand and the provinces on the other. Now, reading this paragraph in the light of the cabinet mission's statement, or reading it even in the light of the resolution passed by the Congress at its Vardha session, I must confess that I am a great deal surprised at the absence of any reference to the idea of the grouping of the provinces. So far as I am personally concerned, I do not like the idea of grouping. I like a strong, united center. Much stronger.
You see how the mood of the assembly has shifted. There is an applause. There are, cheers.
Then the center we had created under the Government of India Act of 1935. But sir, these opinions, these wishes have no bearing on the situation at all. We have traveled a long road. The Congress Party, for the reasons best known to itself, consented, if I may use the expression, to the dismantling of a strong center which had grown into this country as a result of 150 years of administration, and which I must say was to me a matter of great admiration.
See why he's talking about the strong center, because he's saying that under 150 years of a rule of the British, we have had the strong center. So we don't have to dismantle the structure. We don't have to play with the unity of a country, which the Congress Party is trying to play with. So these are the courageous words. He's favoring his country. He's not talking about partisan views. He's not praising any political party. He's just for his country. He's just for the Indians, and that's what makes him the great statesman.
And respect. But having given up that position, having said that we do not want a strong center, and having accepted that there must be or should be an intermediate polity, a sub-federation between the union government and the provinces, I like to know why there is no reference in paragraph 3 to the idea of grouping. I quite understand that the Congress Party, the Muslim League, and His Majesty's government is not ad idem on the interpretation of that particular idea about grouping. But I always thought, and I will be prepared to stand corrected if it's shown that I am wrong, that at least...
You see, these are the words, very important. Even he is ready to admit that if I'm wrong, I'm ready to correct myself. So these are the great tools. Sometimes we just go on boasting about ourselves. But here is Babasaheb Ambedkar, one of the greatest intellectuals of his times. He is saying that if I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected.
It was agreed by the Congress Party that if the provinces who are to be within the different groups consent to form a union or a sub-federation, the Congress would have no objection to that proposal. I believe I am correct in interpreting the mind of the Congress Party. So the question that I ask is this: why did not the mover of this resolution make reference to the idea of having a union of the provinces or a group of provinces on the terms on which he and his party was prepared to accept? Why is the idea of union completely effaced from this resolution?
You see, the raising the questions is very important. So he's not raising the question to get the answers. He's raising the question to tell people what is wrong with the resolution, why the groupings are not done in a particular way, why the United India is contested in the claim of this Congress Party, and he's saying that why it doesn't form the part of the resolution that Nehru has put forth.
I find no answer.
So we will read the rest of the speech, but you might have got the idea as to how Babasaheb Ambedkar goes on articulating his particular points very logically. So he uses ethos, pathos, logos. He uses the opportune time. We will read the rest of the speech because it will take another 10 minutes. But as you might have noticed that only 1 or 2 pages that we have available with us. It took 11 minutes. So whenever you talk among the large group of people, you talk slowly. You articulate every single word. It is not the speech in the haste. It is a speech which is slow, which is every clear word, every single word is clear, and he's articulating his points so well, so beautifully. So let's read the rest of the speech. Okay, so can anybody go from here?
Yes, sir, I'll go.
Yeah, please, Nikhil.
The basis of his argument was, have you the right to do so? He read out certain portions from the statement of the cabinet mission, which related to the procedural part of the Constituent Assembly, and his contention was that the procedure that this Constituent Assembly was adopting in deciding upon this resolution straightaway was inconsistent with the procedure that was laid down in that paper. Sir, I like to put the matter in somewhat different way. The way I like to put it is this. I am not asking you to consider whether you have the right to pass this resolution straight away or not. It may be that you have the right to do so. The question I am asking is this. Is it prudent for you to do so? Is it wise for you to do so? Power is one thing, wisdom is quite a different thing, and I want this House to consider this matter from the point of view not of what authority is vested in this Constituent Assembly. I want this House to consider the matter from another point of view, namely, whether it would be wise, whether it would be statesmanlike, whether it would be prudent to do so at this stage. The answer that I give is that it would not be prudent, it would not be wise.
Now you imagine that Babasaheb Ambedkar is talking in the assembly full of Congress members, and they are about to pass this resolution by put forth by Nehru and the mover of the resolution. And Babasaheb Ambedkar has been very critical of it. He doesn't find a lot of things that are needed there, and he talks about, he raises the ground, he raises the discussion on altogether a different level, and he actually challenges the power of the House. He says that you might be having the power to pass the resolution, but whether it's prudent to do so. And he talks about power and wisdom. It's a very interesting speech. It's so deep a speech that more you read, I have been reading this speech for many, many years now, and I find every single, whenever I go through this speech, I find it very interesting. Like, you see the word power is one thing, wisdom is quite different thing. So whether you want to, act on the basis of power, or you want to act on the basis of the wisdom. And he says that, forget the power. It would not be statement wise if we just appeal to the power. He talks very differently. He says that we have to have the prudence, we have to have the wisdom to deal with the situation where there was a civil war like situation in this country, and he is talking this speech has changed the destiny of this country. You see, now read further, somebody.
So can I?
Yeah, Nikita, please.
I suggest that another attempt may be made to bring about a solution of the dispute between the Congress and the Muslim League. This subject is so vital, so important that I am sure it could never be decided on the mere basis of dignity of one party or the dignity of another party. When deciding the destinies of nations, dignities of people, dignities of leaders, and the dignities of parties ought to count for nothing. The destiny of the country ought to count for everything. It is because I feel that it would in the interest not only for this constituent assembly so that it may functions as one whole, so that it may have the reaction of the Muslim League before it proceeds to the decision that I support Dr. Jaikar's amendment. We must also consider what is going to happen with regard to the future. If we act the precipitately, I do not know what plans the Congress party, which holds this house in its position, has it has in its mind. I have no power of divination to know what they are thinking about. What was their tactics? What is their strategy? I do not know.
Thank you, Rikita. You see, this is also a very important, aspect of the speech. He's talking about now the points which are beyond power. He's appealing to the conscience of people based on, their love for the country, their patriotism. He's saying that, leave the parties. The dignity of the party, one party or this party, the dignity of the Muslim League, the dignity of Congress or any party counts to nothing when it comes to the country, when it comes to the destiny of the country, destination of the destiny of the nation, the dignity of the people, the dignities of the leader, the dignities of the parties ought to count for nothing. What can be the greater statement than this? You see, today people are so much attached to their parties, so much attached to their dignities, so much attached to their caste, so much attached to very different social groups. But what about the destination of a country? You see, so the destination of the country ought to count for everything. That is the statement. And you see, he's saying that, he supports Jaikar amendments that we should take the Muslim League on the board so that we together decide the destiny of the country. So we can forget our party differences. We can forget all the, conflicts so far, and we should think about how we can go in the future. And he's asking what Congress party has a plan to do so, because the Constituent Assembly was dominated by the Congress. So you see, he's raising the questions in order to guide the assembly. He's saying, he has no power of the divination, but what is your tactics? What is your strategy? He doesn't know. So let's go to the further. Anybody?
Sir, may I?
Yeah, Siddhi, please.
But applying my mind as an outsider to the issue that has arisen, it seems to me there are only three ways by which the future will be decided. Either there shall have to be surrender by the one party to the wishes of the other. That is one way. The other way would be what I call a negotiated peace, and the third way would be open war. Sir, I have been hearing from certain members of the Constituent Assembly that they are prepared to go to war. I must confess that I am appalled at the idea that anyone in this country should think of solving the political problems of this country by the method of war. I do not know how many people in this country support that idea. A good many perhaps do, and the reason why I think they do is because most of them, at any rate, a great many of them, believe that the war that they are thinking of would be a war on the British. Well, sir, if the war that is contemplated, that is in the minds of people, can be localized, circumscribed, so that it will not be a more than a war on the British, I probably may not have much objection to that sort of strategy. But will it be a war on the British only? I have no hesitation, and I do not want to place before this House in the clearest terms possible that if war comes in this country, and if that war has any relation to the issue with which we are confronted today, it will not be a war on the British. It will be a war on the Muslims. It will be a war on the Muslims, or which is probably worse, it will be a war on a combination of the British and the Muslims.
See, this is how, Babasaheb Ambedkar makes the picture clear. And you see, he brought the Constituent Assembly to this level where they can understand what is happening. If something goes wrong, he says, now he's using the word, he's using the, this is a deliberative now rhetorics, because he's talking about the future. He's talking about the options available in front of the Constituent Assembly. So what is one option? That one party should surrender to the another party. See, so that's option number one. Option number two is negotiate the peace. And the third is open war. He says only there are three options. There is that one party should surrender to the other party. The second is the peace can be negotiated peace. And the third is the open war. And he says that, if we go for the war, it will not be war against the British. It will be the war against the Muslims, or if worst come worst, it will be the war on the two fronts, British and Muslims. And if that happens, what will happen? He's not in favor of the war. So you see, he is a peacemaker. Through this speech, he doesn't only come out as a great statesman, as a great patriot, or as a great constitutionalist. He before he became the chairman of the drafting committee. This is his speech. It's a very early speech, the first speech in the Constituent Assembly. So he is guiding the assembly towards the peace, the resolution of the problem. And that's what his specialty was. He was somebody who could resolve the problems. He could argue in such a way. He could persuade people in such a way that he didn't need the force, violence to persuade people. I'm going to show you in the second session as to how, despite the violent situation in front of him, how he navigated the situation. So that's for the second session. But let's go on further. So this is the last one. Anybody going to read the last part?
Yeah, I can.
Yes, Pritham.
I cannot see how this contemplated war be of so different from what I fear it will be. Sir, I like to read to the House a passage from Burke's great speech on the consolation of America. I believe this may have some effect upon the temper of this House. The British people, as you know, were trying to conquer the rebellious colonies of the United States and bring them under their subjugation contrary to their wishes. In repelling this idea of conquering the colonies, this is what Burke said. First, sir, permit me to observe that the use of force alone is but temporary. It may be subdue for a moment, but it does not remove the necessity of subduing again. And a nation is not governed which is perpetually to be conquered. My next objection is its uncertainty. Terror is riot, always effect of the force, and an armament is not victory. If you do not succeed, you are without resources for conciliation failing, forces remains, but force failing. No further hope of reconciliation is left. Power and authority are sometimes bought by kindness, but they can never be begged as alms by improvised and defeated violence. A further objection is to force is that you impair the object by your very endeavors to preserve it. The thing you fought for is not the thing which you recover, but depreciated, sunk, wasted, and consumed in its contest.
So you see, as I told you that we don't know whether Babasaheb Ambedkar has quoted this Edmund Burke through his memory, or he had written on the card his quotation. But whatever is the case, but you see how he used the quotation here from the great philosopher, the political philosopher Edmund Burke, and he makes a very important statement that you cannot try to win something by force, because even if you use the word for you use force is temporarily, because once you remove the force, the things don't change. So if and this is a very interesting quotation that Boss Ambedkar has cited from Edmund Burke, that a nation is not governed which is perpetually to be conquered. If there is a war going on in the country perpetually, it's very difficult to govern it. If the rioting, if the violence is going on throughout India, such is the case today, everywhere there is no law and order, people just are rioting there, this is a very, very bad situation. So if that is happening in this country, any country, at any moment of time, then this country is very difficult to be governed. And that's what the point Babasaheb Ambedkar is making. And he says that violence has to be avoided at any cost, because if we try to get something by force, by application of that very force, we destroy the very thing that we are trying to get. It's a very beautiful sentence. You see, a further objection to force is that you impair the object by your very endeavors to preserve it. The thing you fought for is not the thing which you recover, but depreciated, sunk, wasted, and consumed in the contest. So you see, that is all about force. So last, anybody? Anyone? Yes, Rikita, please.
These are weighty words which it would be perilous to ignore. If there is anything who has in his mind the project of solving the Hindu-Muslim problem by force, which is another name of solving it by war, in order that the Muslim may be subjugated and made to surrender to the constitution that might be prepared without their consent. That this country would be involved in perpetually conquering them. The conquest would not be once and forever. I do not wish to take more time than I have taken, and I will conclude by Again, referring to Burke, Burke has said somewhere that it is easy to give power, it is difficult to give wisdom. Let us prove by our conduct that if this assembly has arrogated to itself sovereign powers, it is prepared to exercise them with wisdom. That is the only way by which we can carry with us all sections of the country. There is no other way that can lead us to unity. Let us not have no doubt on that point.
So this is the end of the speech of Babasaheb Ambedkar, 17 December 1946. You see how you end the speech. So you summarize the whole point of his speech was to, talk about the unity of India, to talk about, the rights with remedies, with justice. And in the end, he's talking about, not favoring the war. He's saying that we have to somehow make the Muslims the part of the constitution making process. But we know the history that after that India was partitioned, and he says that if we do not take into account the all the different sections of the society in constitution making, that constitution will not be accepted by all. And that is one of the reasons why Babasaheb Ambedkar became the chairman of the drafting committee, because Babasaheb Ambedkar said that we won't accept the constitution which doesn't take our views into consideration. So any constitution which is imposed by one community or another is unworkable. You see, all the sections of the society has to be taken into consideration when working out the constitution. And then he is also appealing to the assembly dominated by the Congress member having so much of power. He's saying that okay, power is okay, but what you need is a wisdom, and that is the only way that we have available with us to carry all the sections of our country together. Whether they're Muslims, whether they're scheduled caste, whoever they are, everybody has to be brought together in order to draft the constitution so that our country is united. And he says, in the end, he says, let's have no doubt on that point. So we will end it here, and I will open up the class for any final comments for 10 minutes. We can go for 10 minutes. So if you have anything, any final points, 1 or 2, 5 minutes, anybody has anything to say? Yes, Mangaldas ji. Yes, Mangaldas ji, please go on. Okay, anyone else?
Sir, Rahul here. Thank you so much for the session, for arranging the session. I mean, I'm not only for this session, for all the sessions that you keep on arranging and including us. So I wanted to express my thanks and also to for in continuation of this particular speech on YouTube, there is a series of debates of Constituent Assembly. So just wanted to make this point that these debates are really beautiful to watch and to understand what went into making of this constitution. There are sections where Babasaheb also makes his speech and makes his point. Obviously, these are by actors, different actors, but this is something that is very important for us, especially in today's times, to understand. So just wanted to make this point. That is number one. And secondly, as our brother has suggested one movie, The Great Debaters. I have seen that movie. It's really good. It's a must watch, to be very honest. Not only in public space, but how do you, whenever you are with your friends or, whenever you are talking, because in these times, debates have become very, very on the sleeve, right? People start debating on everyday basis, on everyday events. And, so it is very important to watch that movie. And there is another movie that I would like to suggest, which is 12 Angry Men. It's a beautiful movie on how to debate, how to have group discussion. Again, I mean, it's a personal choice, but I just wanted to say these 2 points. Thank you so much again.
Good. Okay, anyone else before we end
Sir,
up?
very good morning, sir. I am Dr. Devidas Sakpal from Telangana.
Good.
I am formerly Community Relation Officer, Social Welfare Department and Educational Activist, sir. I am here very pleased and very thanking you, sir. This platform is going very greatly, effectively the mission of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. I am origin from Parbhani, sir. I am very happy to this Ambedkar School of Governance. This is very great experience to my sir.
Thank you,
I am very
Devdas. Thank
pleased.
you. If you have any comments, yeah. If you have any comments, please.
Yes, sir. Actually, this session is very effectively, very depth information to the community in this new era. This is we are successor of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. We
Good.
will do, sir. I am very pleased on this platform, sir. I will do my level, sir, best. Thank you.
Good, Devdas. Okay, a final word, anyone? Because we have, this class has exceeded a lot of time. Anyone has anything to say? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mangalaji, please. Mangalaji, please say it, no? Okay, I
Hello.
think you are not. Okay, Aniket, please go on.
Hello, sir. Thank you for this great session. I have a question actually. So, one thought came in my mind when Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar spoke. He spoke in front of people who are well educated, who have studied law and studied various other faculties. But when so these uh, speaking theories or rhetorics that we discussed, these how do we compare that with speaking in front of a well-educated versus speaking in front of a uh, uh, audience that is not so well-educated? For example,
Yeah.
Babasaheb also spoke in on public speaking to large audiences who are not educated, like at the time of our people who were not very educated. So how do you compare that, and how can do we have any theories for that that would
I
help
think
us?
I don't know whether you joined the class from the beginning because we talked about the
This is my
theory.
first class.
No. In the first in the beginning of the class, we have explained the concepts. Maybe you can go through them. I will share the recording. So these all tools can be applied anywhere. It's not just about public assembly or in anywhere you can do it. Even in your day-to-day life, you can use all these things. When to switch the tenses, when you talk about past, when you talk about present, when you talk about future, how to articulate, how to make people believe you. They're all techniques, and we have touched briefly on them in the beginning of this. So maybe you can go through the recording. Okay,
Jai Bhim, sir. Jai Bhim, sir.
Yes, Mangalaji.
Jai Bhim, sir. Sir, I would like to suggest some things, sir, that showing slide or it is good. But that reading paragraph in between, it is disturbing your rhythm, sir. So that reading paragraph separate session can be conducted.
No, I got your point, but what I want to do is I want to read together. So so that I can comment on. So let me see how I can best do it. Okay, Mangalaji?
Because 1 hour session should be for you, sir.
Okay, we will do it afterwards. I know what you're talking, but we will do it afterwards. Okay,
It is a little bit of disturbance, sir. It creates little bit of disturbance.
No, I want you to read here Babasaheb Ambedkar more than me. I want
Sir,
you to
sir.
come forth. Okay. Sir,
Sir, separate. Okay, sir.
Okay. Anybody?
I'd like to say something. So it would be great if it would be more engaging in terms of studying, engaging and interactive.
No, because these are the classes, Pritam. If you want to have more interaction, you can. These are the classes where I'm teaching some concepts, and there are some practices. So if you have already known a lot of things, I think there's a different matter. But this is for everybody to, I think a lot of people don't know what is it all about. And so, this is a classroom. It's not a kind of a seminar or something. So, that's the pattern that we are going to work through.
Yeah. Maybe we can do it in the end of the sessions.
So, anyone has anything to say?
Yes, sir. Mangesh sir, you have chosen, actually, it is a very excellent speech, and we should read it again and again, frankly speaking.
Good.
I have read it 2-3 times, but I need to read it again.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful speech. Thank you very much for sharing.
But read it to educate yourself as to how you can speak, okay? So,
Yes.
Aryashri?
Sir.
Areshri is raised the what is his hand. Pratik.
Sir, may I?
Okay, Umesh, go quickly because we know we have taken a lot of time today.
Yeah, yeah. Sir, it was very profound and very researched session. The bibliography we want to request you to share and further to enhance this art. Means this is the very strong platform on which we can learn a lot. You have mentioned the John Dewey and
I shared 2 books in the group, WhatsApp group. You can look at them. I will ask Areshri to share them again. Okay. I
Sure,
give
sir.
some resource. Okay, and I'm going to share some websites also as to from where you can learn. Okay.
Sir, beside that, because we are a lot of people over here, we should contribute to enhance our skill. In this, we all should contribute, and certain tasks be given in these sessions so that everyone could participate more.
See, my previous experience of the classes I conducted hundreds like this. So I think what is important is people are not serious if I give them assignments. So at the end of the sessions, I would expect some of you to prepare your speeches on certain topics. And if you are ready to do that, we will discuss that in the group if you are prepared to do that. Okay.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, Doctor.
So Pratik ji, if not, okay, then if there is nobody, Aresh, you want to say something? Areshri? Okay, I think we will conclude here for today and see you next session. And we hope that the next session will be very interesting. We are going to talk about the debate between Gandhi and Nehru and how Babasaheb Ambedkar used his persuasive power to deal with that situation. So, Jai Bhim Namo Buddhaya and see you in the next class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.